Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking, where we dive deep into regional headlines with leading policymakers and business leaders. I am Katie Jensen. This week we speak to Omar Awadallah, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for Political Affairs at the Palestinian Authority, as controversy grows over President Trump's new Gaza peace plan. Within hours of its launch, Israeli airstrikes killed more than 50 Palestinians, shattering hopes of peace. Can Washington really rein in its closest ally, or has the balance of power shifted too far? And if Hamas is told to disarm with no assurances from Israel, can this truly lead to peace or only deepen mistrust and violence? Minister Awadallah, thank you for joining us today on Frankly Speaking. Now, of course, big news over the last week. And of course, there was significant Arab and Muslim support for President Trump's peace plan. Yet within hours of its announcement, Israeli airstrikes killed more than 50 Palestinians. That has continued despite President Trump's very clear instructions and call for restraint. Frankly speaking, do you see any real hope of peace with this Israeli government?
Unfortunately not, for sure, because we believe that, as you said, that even after the welcoming of Mr. Trump plan, unfortunately, Israel is still continuing in its genocidal war against our people, and the man-made famine in Gaza Strip, continuing in its provocations in the West Bank. The last week, we saw a lot of Israeli jeeps and military and occupying power are entering our cities, provocating our people, arresting, harassing, killing, including arresting, all of this. Unfortunately, no, this government is not about peace. This government is not about ceasefire. This government is not about the release of hostages and prisoners. They are not about this. They are about the continuation of their aggression against our people and against the region as a whole.
Okay, so you're saying at this stage you feel that the talks are destined to fail?
No, I don't want that, actually, and no one is looking for the failure of the talks or the negotiations, the indirect negotiations or the direct negotiations with the teams in Sharm el-Sheikh and in Egypt. No, we want the success of this because we've been asking for the ceasefire and to end the aggression and to halt the famine, to halt the forcible transfer of our people. For 2 years now, actually, and this is our priority. That's why we welcome with our Arab brothers and sisters and Muslim brothers and sisters, we welcome the efforts of Mr. Trump, because we really want the stop of all of this. But we know that the Israeli government is not about this.
Okay, obviously there's been a big focus on the return of the Israeli hostages. That's come from the Israeli side and the US side as well. But the following day after this plan for peace was presented, we saw US Secretary of State Marco Rubio admitted that releasing the hostages would be impossible while Israel continues its attacks. Do you believe that Washington can do more to pressure Israel, or does Israel simply hold too much sway over US policy?
Well, I think if Mr. Trump wants to stop this, he can do it. He can impose his conditions on the Israeli leadership. We think that the support that comes from the American administration to Israel, they have that leverage over the Israeli current government to tell them to stop and to halt killing our people, because we all saw what happened even before Mr. Trump came to power on 19th of January of this year, when they managed to have a deal for a ceasefire that Israel actually broke after that, for sure. But unfortunately, we still believe that the only big player that can pressure the Israelis and the current fascist Israeli government is the American administration, and not all the American administration. We believe that Mr. Trump himself can do that.
Okay, of course, a major sticking point of the specific plan as well is that many critics have said Palestinians were not meaningfully consulted when it came to Mr. Trump's 20-point peace plan and when it was actually drafted. I understand your office raised several concerns. What were your main reservations around here?
Firstly, we welcome that plan with the Arab and Muslim countries and the Arab leaders and the Muslim leaders, because the priority in that plan and the clear aspect of that plan was about ending the war on Gaza and stopping the starvation that Israel used as a weapon of war, and the forcible transfer of our people, the protection of our people, the release of prisoners and hostages, which was our priority for 2 years since the war started, actually in October 2023. But the other aspects of this plan, I think it needs clear details, clear action plans, including that we have a great effort by Saudi Arabia and France about convening the conference in New York about the peaceful settlements of the question of Palestine and implementing the two-state solution. So we believe that in a way or another, we need to link this plan with the New York Declaration to be more clear. It has a more clear timeline, clear actions that we can all work together. That's why we said that we are ready to engage in a good faith in clarifying this plan and to break it out into actionable issues with a clear time frame. So many other issues that Hamas before accepted about the governing of Gaza, about the women of Hamas, about the stabilization mission that can come to Gaza by the invitation of the Palestinian government and under a Security Council resolution. A lot of things that they need actionable issues and clear details that we need to discuss with our partners and with the help of our Arab and Muslim leaders.
And I think that's an important issue you raised, that it's the clear detail, the actionable plan, turning it from ambition to execution. There's still a lot of detail to be worked out, but there are some that would argue that even a flawed plan is better than endless war. After 2 years of fighting, over 60,000 Palestinians killed, multiple failed ceasefires as well. Do you see any value in that argument?
Yes, for sure. I think the main issue, adding to this, the New York Declaration was based on that this war should stop and should end, as it came in Mr. Trump's plan that this war should end immediately. So no, we see a value in this plan. We value that genuine efforts by Mr. Trump and by those who are now convening in Egypt, including with the help of our Arab brothers, leaders, and other Islamic countries that are engaging in a daily basis to find way out to resolve the things that need to be discussed directly or indirectly with the Israelis.
And of course, we've seen a number of senior officials join the talks this week in Sharm el-Sheikh. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. We've seen Qatar's Prime Minister as well, adding a lot of weight to these discussions. Turkey's intelligence agency head as well also joining. But I think when it comes to some of the details, there are those who claim that a lot of these heavy casualties, frankly, could have been avoided if Hamas had surrendered earlier. In fact, that Hamas essentially has hijacked the decision not only of the PA, but the entire Palestinian people. How would you respond to that?
Well, I'm not the spokesperson of Hamas, actually, but I can assure you that the side that was sabotaging this process is the Israelis themselves and the current Israeli government. Those who broke the last deal about the ceasefire, it's Israel. We went to the Security Council. We have the Security Council Resolution 2735. It was clear about the ceasefire. It was clear about the stages of that ceasefire. We all committed to that ceasefire and said that we will be implementing it. Israel is not ready to implement that, and that's why we are now more, skeptical that maybe Israel also will sabotage this process without the real pressure by the American president himself.
And obviously there's a certain amount of mistrust on either side. I mean, the negotiations on the Hamas side are being led by Khalil al-Hayya, the same person that Israel tried to assassinate a month ago. But let's look at who is steering this peace effort as well, because what I think is interesting is the plan proposes this board of peace led by Donald Trump and Tony Blair. Now, supporters say Mr. Blair brings credibility. Critics say he's got blood on his hands after essentially destroying Iraq and then attempting to rebuild himself as a peace broker. What's your view on this point?
As I said from the beginning, that there is a lot in this plan that needs to be discussed, actually, in a frank way. As you frankly
But what
speaking.
about this specific point? Because there's many who say this is just another example of Western hypocrisy. Many people who've been involved in destroying Gaza are now attempting to rebuild it under the name of being a peacemaker.
For us, having this board of peace chaired by Mr. Trump himself, that's something promising that it might, pressure the Israelis toward ending this war and to look for the path toward the independence of the state of Palestine. We, as the representative of the Palestinian people, we still believe that we should always be consulted in any of the future of our people, not only in Gaza, but in any elsewhere, actually, not only in Gaza and the West Bank, including Jerusalem and diaspora. So while this board is not there yet to understand what they are going to do, what is their role. So it's still, as I said, it's a lot of
okay, so you support
ambiguity.
President Trump. You support President Trump's role there, but what about Mr. Blair? Because we know the mess he made, not only invading Iraq but also attempting to rebuild Iraq, left in absolute disrepair. He's also meant to have been involved in helping rebuild Gaza as well. That's also been an absolute failure. Would you welcome his inclusion in this board of peace, or do you think it's destined to fail if he's involved?
Actually, we need to see what he's going to do before saying that we accept or we don't accept, and what kind of board that we'll be having. If Mr. Blair will be playing the same role that he played before in destroying but not rebuilding and reconstructing, I think there is a lot of question marks will be there. And we have that frank discussion with the Arab and Muslim leaders about this board and about so many other issues that came in that plan. So yet we don't know what kind of board, what this board is going to do. So we cannot directly say that we accept this figure or we reject that figure. But finally, those who are going to be responsible for the Palestinian people today, tomorrow, before yesterday, is the Palestinian leadership and the PLO itself. So we will be clear, we will be having a clear position according to the board once it's there.
Okay, well, I want to ask about your thoughts on the PA's involvement in just a moment. But firstly, I also want to talk about another important part, I think, that is at the heart of this discussion as well, and that is disarmament. Now, Hamas is being told to lay down its arms, yet there are no guarantees Israel would halt operations. We've seen what has happened, that they've continued the bombings this week, even when Mr. Trump told them to stop. So there's a lot of mistrust there. Do you think that all of Hamas would comply with the demilitarization, or instead could it risk splintering the group further?
So if you ask me, I'm talking about the issue of decommissioning of the weapons in Gaza first. And the idea of demilitarization, I think it also came in the New York Declaration. But it was clear in that declaration that if we want to talk about demilitarization, we need also to talk about the demilitarization of the Israeli settlers. Israeli settlers in the West Bank. They are
sure, but I'm asking
armed.
specifically about Hamas as well. And I agree with you regarding the settlements, I really do. But when we talk about the disarmament of Hamas, do you think they are likely to agree with that? And I appreciate you're not their spokesperson. Or do you think we're going to see more fragmentation of the group?
Actually, you know our position as Palestinian government. We have our policy, we have our principle that we are one state, one government, one rule of law, and one gun. So any gun in Palestine, including Gaza as an integral part of the state of Palestine, this gun should be only with the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, which is the Palestinian government. And I think our Hamas, the Hamas and Hamas leader, I think that they will be ready for this principle and for this policy line by the PLO itself. So we think that Hamas will go into that direction, but it should not be taken as this is the way that Israel wants to announce its victory over Hamas and over the Palestinian people themselves. The issue of decommissioning the weapons in Gaza and the demilitarization of Gaza should be one element of a whole project about Gaza and the future of Gaza. It's not only about demilitarization without having the withdrawal of the Israelis or without protecting the Palestinian people in Gaza, that Israel is still bombing them. So there is a lot of things that we need to discuss clearly and have a clear vision about it before going into the details of the good plan of Mr. Trump.
And I think you're absolutely right there as well. Again, there is a lot of mistrust on each side at the moment, and for good reason. But presuming that disarmament happens, who enforces the peace? Because there's been talk of deploying an Arab peacekeeping force to oversee a post-war security in Gaza. Is that something that the Palestinian Authority would support?
If that will be taken as we have it in the New York Declaration, yes, we will accept, because we said that we are ready to invite international stabilization mission by the invitation of the Palestinian government, and having our own security personnel who are now being trained in Egypt and in Jordan, that they are ready to take over and to help in this stabilizing the situation in Gaza Strip. Yes, we accept to have a stabilization mission, which is under the Security Council also resolution and the acceptance of the international community with a clear mandate. And the mandate of this mission should not substitute the Palestinian presence, but to support and oversight the Palestinian presence.
But even with these peacekeepers, rebuilding Gaza is another challenge entirely. Now, President Trump's vision of Gaza as a wealthy Dubai-style metropolis may appeal rhetorically, but without firm funding from Israel or the US, is that realistic or even desirable?
You know, we already have that discussion, deep discussion about the relief and the early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza, and we already have a plan, and that plan was prepared by us and by our brothers and sisters in Egypt, and then it became the Arab Islamic plan for reconstruction and recovery of Gaza. So I think this plan is on the table, and it is everything that in that plan, and we're ready to have a conference about the bridging conference for this plan and to start the work. But the major issue, the main issue is we need to stop the war first.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way any of us can rebuild Gaza while the killings and the bombings continue. And I think that brings me to my next point, because at the core of all of this lies a much bigger political issue. This plan appears to speak of a roadmap to Palestinian statehood, yet Prime Minister Netanyahu continues to reject the two-state solution. Do you genuinely believe that statehood is still achievable?
Definitely, for sure, and we're working every day relentlessly toward this goal, and we have the good effort of our Saudi brothers and sisters having the conference and the roadmap that came up with that conference, the New York Declaration and the annex of that declaration, with a clear commitment, clear actions towards the implementation of the two-state solution, because it's practical aspects of the resolving the question of Palestine and bringing peace and security and stability to the region means that there is a stable, viable state of Palestine. That's why we believe that this declaration is the actionable, the roadmap toward having a Palestinian state, toward having peace and security in the region. Nonetheless, Netanyahu is not the person that is accepted from him that to say that there is no Palestinian state or there will never be a Palestinian state. more than 160 countries already recognizing the state of Palestine.
And that's the thing,
So
we
there
are
is
seeing.
two.
I was going to say, we are seeing an increasing number of
I
Western
think
governments support the two-state solution as well. Countries like France and the UK have recently recognised Palestinian statehood. Many, though, have said it's been too little too late to really make any real impact. How do you see that move?
You know, I think that 160 countries, they said that there will be a Palestinian state, a viable state of Palestine that is part of the new Middle East that His Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was thinking of, where the state of Palestine at the middle of that Middle East, new Middle East, while we have the other Middle East where Mr. Netanyahu wants full with blood and with fire that is not acceptable for anyone. So we believe that the bold move by the international community, by these countries to come and to recognize the state of Palestine, supporting the Saudi-French initiative toward having the state of Palestine as a prerequisite for peace, as a tangible, irreversible step toward the stabilization and the peace and the security of the region. I think this initiative that the Americans should, in a way or another, use the opportunity to support rather than supporting the initiative that is full with blood by Mr. Netanyahu and his fascist government, mainly Smotrich and Ben Gvir.
So you welcome the recognition of Palestinian statehood, but we haven't seen a big impact on changing things on the ground there, because despite global condemnation, Israel, as we've talked about already, continues its operation, continues its settlement expansion in the West Bank as well. Tell me, could world governments be doing any more to apply real pressure? And why do you think they haven't?
I think that will bring fruit in a way or another. And we believe that Mr. Trump plan came after all of this momentum, all of this good faith by those who convened in the New York Declaration and the New York Conference and the recognition itself. So I think the initiative by Mr. Trump came after all this efforts. Without this effort, the initiative might not come in a way or another. At the same time, we believe that linking recognition to actionable issues, sanctions, consequences on Israel, I think that will pressure the Israelis and the current Israeli government. And I think the international community is heading toward the right direction, toward telling the Israelis that they cannot continue with what they are doing. There is two different things: the international community's prospects and approach toward ending the illegality that Israel is pursuing against the Palestinian people. And the other thing that we are talking to the international community, because Israel now is a rogue state, pariah state, that is a thing that they are above the international law. So we need the international community to use all their leverage to pressure this fascist government toward accepting the rules of the international law and the rules of the international community toward having the state of Palestine as the driver toward the end of the Israeli occupation and the instability in the region.
And I think that momentum's important, but while the world debates diplomacy, Palestinians are facing internal questions too. Now, President Trump's plan calls for comprehensive reform of the Palestinian Authority before it can lead Gaza's reconstruction or govern it. So tell me, as someone who sees what's going on behind the scenes, what reforms are being demanded and who decides their legitimacy?
Actually, there's two things. First of all, the current Palestinian government is about reform. They came when they first of the inception of this government, they were talking about the reform and the financial stability and the construction of Gaza in a way or another. So reform is a Palestinian priority. We have our reform agenda. We already had so many reforms within the current Palestinian government, welcomed by the international community. We have our progress report, which is public actually, and we are engaging in a daily basis with so many international players to look about our kind of reforms, because we are looking at the reform as upgrade, update, develop, renewing of and consolidating the Palestinian institutions. We don't look at it from the perspective that this government, as Netanyahu tried to say that it is a corrupted PA. It's not the right
well, you
way
say the
of
Palestinian
tackling
Authority is all about reform, but with all due respect, President Abbas has remained in power without elections for nearly 2 decades. The polls continue to show that the overwhelming number of majorities want him out. So how urgent is leadership transition, and what are the mechanisms for democratic renewal within the PA?
I think that first of all, I think that the letter that His Excellency, the President Mahmoud Abbas, sent to His Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and to the President of France, Mr. Macron, talking about our commitments, including to elections. We are not the one who prevented the elections in East Jerusalem. Israel did that at the critical juncture of time when Mr. Trump recognized Jerusalem as a unified capital for Israel, which we cannot, in a way or another, as Palestinians, accept any elections without East Jerusalem. So the problem was not that we are not ready to have elections in Palestine. Now we have it clear that once the war is in, after 1 year, we will be having elections. When we have Gaza there, we will be having elections and having the democratization and the renewal of the Palestinian system. So we're ready for this.
Okay, so if President Abbas were to step down, is there a clear succession plan in place? Are we likely to see a generational shift or a continuation of the same?
I think that the election will decide what kind of a new leadership in Palestine will be. I think that now the PLO, as a sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, responsible for all aspects of the Palestinian people, we have our leadership that are now in control, and we will be continue up until we will be having elections to change the system toward what the people are going to choose.
So is there any serious effort within Fatah to reconcile with Hamas or at least form a unified political front?
Also, I'm not a spokesperson of Fatah, but we wish to have a Palestinian reconciliation process where all the Palestinians are under the PLO umbrella, accepting its obligations, accepting its programs, accepting its the signed agreement with the international community, accepting the status of the state of Palestine all over the international community, accepting the international law. So I think that we all Palestinians should unify under the PLO toward having not to give anyone the possibility to undermine our Palestinian national project in a way or another.
Okay, well, that sounds like a no to me. But while the politics stall, the situation on the ground keeps worsening. We've talked about the ongoing raids, the settlement expansion and the settler violence that have left parts of the West Bank in utter chaos. How can the PA maintain credibility when, frankly, it cannot protect its own communities or citizens?
So when we are talking about the idea of the demilitarization, we're talking about protecting the Palestinian society. So that's why we've been asking the international community to protect the Palestinian people. That's why we're asking the Security Council to send peacekeeping mission to Palestine to protect the Palestinian people. Because what Israel is trying to do now is to undermine the Palestinian government, the Palestinian leadership. They are having this financial blockade, economical blockade, and physical blockade. Now Israel is isolating our cities and villages and communities with 1,200 checkpoints, barriers, iron gates. So I think this question is to the international community to take what we are talking seriously. Israel is trying to extend its genocide from Gaza to the West Bank by forcibly already displaced more than 42,000 Palestinians already displaced and their houses already demolished. What they are doing in East Jerusalem is the same. We believe that the international community should take that seriously and to find the way to protect the Palestinian people.
Which is not happening at the moment. Now, we know that coordination between the Palestinian and Israeli forces, that remains deeply divided at the moment as well. Tell me, is that cooperation still functioning at any level and at what political cost?
So it should be clear first that there is no coordination between us and between the Israeli occupying forces. There is an official coordination between the working level, which means that the occupied people, they have relationship with the occupier, and this is under international law. When there is an occupation and occupying power, you need to have a kind of coordination, because there is Palestinians that are leaving outside the country via the bridges, via the crossings. Adding to this, we have the import and the export. So there is a lot of technical issues that need to be discussed, but not the relationship between the Israeli occupying forces. So that coordination is, in a way or another, is there on the level of the occupied people that having relationship with the occupier to ease the life of the Palestinian people in administrative issues.
So could the escalating violence in Jenin or Nablus spark a new uprising beyond the PA's control?
I think two different things. Israel is trying to provocate our people in the West Bank. They want a reaction by our people in the West Bank. As we saw the last week, Israel entered all the cities and they were attacking our people and arresting and harassing our people all over the place. They are provoking that. They want to extend their genocidal war to the West Bank in a way or another. Our people, they understand what Israel wants to do. We still believe that the peaceful resistance and the international law mechanisms, including the legal track that we are pursuing to get Israel accountable for its crimes, is the way forward toward ending this illegality that Israel is trying to pursue against our people. We believe that the Palestinian government is trying to do all its best to protect our people, at the same time to prevent the Israelis to have what they want, actually, by provocating the situation and escalating the so-called violence in the West Bank by attacking cities, refugee camps, attacking and arresting our people and trying to harass our people in the West Bank and use all the methods of aggression against us.
Well, you say the government's doing its best, but you have to wonder, has Israel's siege-style policy on the entire villages and refugee camps that you've mentioned there, has that effectively dismantled the PA's authority on the ground?
The authority, no one can dismantle, because, as I said, that we have that leverage. We are representing our people. Israel is controlling all the occupied Palestinian territory. Israel is the occupying power. And it's not new. Since 57 years, by the way, it's not new. Israel is committing crimes for more than 77 years against the Palestinian people. What they are doing now is a continuation of these crimes. Adding to this, inaction sometimes of the international community is encouraging Israel to do more and more. They are trying to undermine the work of the Palestinian government. As I said, by the blockade, the economical blockade, they are now stealing our tax revenues, even the money. $3.2 billion Israel is withholding, which is our money, and all the international community, they know that this is our money, but they are trying to undermine the work of the Palestinian government, not to provide services to our people or to provide any kind of security for them. Yes, Israel is trying to undermine us because they are not about peace. As we started this meeting today, we're talking about this issue about Israel is not about peace. They are about having inflamed, full with fire Middle East, because there is a political gain of the current Israeli prime minister who's might go. If there is any kind of peace or any kind of stability or even ceasefire in the region.
And certainly hundreds of thousands of people's lives at stake as well. Hopefully we do see some real progress in these peace talks. Minister Awadallah, thank you very much for joining us today on Frankly Speaking. We really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you so much.